And here are the players in the London Chess Classic, the third leg of the Grand Chess Tour. Magnus Carlsen from Norway, current world champion, arguably one of the best players that ever lived. Fabiano Caruana from the United States, top grandmaster in the world. If you remember, Fabiano just ran through the competition in the Singfield Cup. My buddy from the United States as well, Carl Nakamura. Great player. Carl is just an amazing player. I'm a little biased because I like a Carl, but I'll tell you, he's going to be playing in the candidates final in March. We'll see. And Veselin Topalov from Bulgaria, former world champion. It's funny, they wrote off the old guys like Kramnik and Topalov, and here they are back on top again. I believe Topalov is now number 2 in the world. Alexander Grishuk from Russia, very underrated player. Alex is always in the top in the world. If you just can control his time trouble addiction, I think Alex can go a long ways. And of course, former world champion from India, Viswanathan, I believe 6-time world champion. He was counted out when he lost to Magnus Carlsen, and then he won the candidates final to play Carlsen again. He did lose that rematch, but it's no slouch to win the candidates final after losing the world championship, but he did it. Great player. Anis Giri from the Netherlands, top world-class player. Anis is pretty young. I don't even think Anis is 22 years old yet. He's one of the world-class players. Levin Aronian from Armenia, top world-class players. I think, frankly, one of the people that are playing right now is some of the strongest in the world that never played for the World Championship, and that's Levin Aronian. Really nice guy, classy guy, too. And Michael Adams from England. I like Mickey a lot. He's an interesting guy. He's really intense when he's playing, but if you see him in interviews, he's the calmest, most collected guy there is. Great player from England. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave from France, MVL as they call him, another world-class player. Maxime was having a hard time for about a year or so, lost some rating points, but he's on the way back. Look out for Maxime, because I'll tell you, he's one of the top statisticians in the game. Anyway, folks, there's the lineup for London Chess Classic, the last leg of the Grand Chess Tour. Hi, folks. John Cordisco back again. Round 2 of the 7th annual London Chess Classic. The third leg in a 3-leg series of tournaments called the Grand Chess Tour. First one was Norway Chess. The second one was here in the United States in St. Louis, the Singfield Cup. And this one, the London Chess Classic. This is a hell of a game. The other games were drawn. So I think this is the only game actually worth showing. Some of them are pretty boring. And not all draws are boring, but they were pretty boring. Between my buddy from the United States, Carl Nakamura, is white, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is black from France. Carl, remember in the first round, he had a really good position. And he kind of messed it up and ended up with a draw. So he's looking for a win. He was ahead with black, and now here he is with white. Let's get to it. It's going to be a Benoni, which is always crazy. So we'll go for the first few moves here. C5, Benoni. Push the pawn up. Now, I've played against Benoni before, and I'll tell you the truth, I have no clue what to do. D5, I'll go with a Carl's D5. D6, Knight C3. This is an interesting move here. Maybe this is part of MVL. I'll call him MVL instead of doing his whole name, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Computer likes Bishop F5. Rook E8. Bishop G4. Maxime goes E6, which makes perfect sense. But you don't want to give yourself a backward pawn this soon either. We'll see how it works out. Carl castles. Maxime takes. C takes. Now you got to get the knight out. Knight A6. Okay. It's not the greatest spot in the world right now, but and I don't think doubling up that pawn. In fact, the top 3 computer moves And none of them are bishop takes the knight on a6. Why give up that good bishop for that lousy knight? Knight to d2. He's bringing the other knight around. Wants to go to c4 eventually. Rook b8. e4. Now Carl, I think, is going to have some problems here, even though he shows a slight advantage. This knight can come back around. This pawn can come up. Rook e8. Computer likes bishop f3, rook e1, but I'll tell you the truth, I like a Carl's move. f3. One, it stops these two knights from babysitting this pawn. Blocks in his light squared bishop a little bit, but it's not the end of the world for right now. Knight h5. So here we are, we're on move 12. And black has equalized already with knights on both edges of the board. That means somehow, some way, I'm not an expert on the Benoni, maybe someone that's watching this can say, I think Carl missed out. I don't know where. Must be really subtle. f4. Carl just opened. It's just his style. He's an aggressive player. He wants to go e5. Knight f6. The knight comes back. I think this is a subtle move. Maybe a3 would have been a decent move. Rook e1. Carl decides to go king to h1. Now, what's happened, he is down a couple of tempos, which is very unusual for white. And his advantage is basically gone. A tiny advantage now for black. Like I said, he went wrong somewhere, Carl. I just can't figure out where. Knight c7. a4. That's a stop. b5. a6. They want to go b5. And now he goes a5. That shuts down the b pawn. Bishop d7, get his last piece. Out. Bishop f3. What to do? What to do? Knight b5. White's got a lot of space, but it's just not working for him. I just don't think his pieces are coordinated. Those knights on c3 and d2 are just, they're not doing much. Yeah, they're holding the pawns in the center. That's a really good center, but there's something doesn't seem right. I just can't figure out what it is, but it's a horrible feeling. I'll give you an idea in the standings. It's a cumulative score of all three tournaments. Right now, Carl is only 1 point behind the leader of Vesla and Tabala. And it's a big deal. So far, he's made $80,000, not even including this tournament. And if you win, and you had the most points, you get quite a bit of money. It's over $100,000 extra. So this is a big deal. In yesterday's game, he probably felt a little, we'll call this in poker tilt. You got tilted where you're just upset. I think he should have won that game. So here he is. He goes e5 to open it up. Now, it seems okay at a quick glance for white here. But, like I said before, his pieces just aren't coordinated. That bishop on c1 hasn't even moved yet. The two knights are in crappy spots. So he opens up the center. What else can he do? D takes, F takes, rook takes. So he sacrifices a pawn to open up things a little bit. Knight c4. Now where does the rook go? Goes to f5. Basically a rook left without wasting the tempo. Oddly enough, the computer has here the last book move. So this is Benoni. I mean, yeah, you got to be Kasparov for one of these guys to know all the lines in the Benoni. I couldn't even begin to tell you. Even if I played the Benoni or played against it, I don't know. Finally gets the knight maneuvered around. That knight on c4 is actually in a pretty good spot here. Look at the spaces that it's covering here. Quite good. Now, this is something Maxime does that I was a little surprised at when it happened. By the way, if you want to see any of the other games in its entirety with a commentary from Alejandro Ramirez, Maurice Ashley, and Yasser Sarawan, go to the YouTube channel for the Chess Club and Scholastic Center. They have all the video and commentary for this round. But I was a little surprised when this happened. Knight d4, I think, is a good move. He decided to sacrifice the rook. h3, rook, queen takes. So now he's got a bishop and 2 pawns for a rook. He sacks the exchange. But look at poor white's king. Pretty crappy. Pretty crappy. Got that bishop bearing down right on him. The queen's on the diagonal. That pawn is pinned. How scary as it looks, but it only shows a 0.27 advantage for black. So he has to go knight to f4. Now, this knight isn't really hanging because he's attacking the bishop too. And at the same time, it defends the pawn. Nice move. Nice resource there. Queen takes. To give you an idea, the queen had taken instead. Rook a4, hitting the queen. Rook has to take it. Or the queen has to take it. And queen takes. So we got 2 pieces and 2 pawns for a queen. But after queen takes, rook takes, bishop d7. It's opened up a little bit for white. I think he might be out of the doghouse, but it's still very difficult. I mean, his pawns are a mess on the king side. His king's exposed. Bishop and 2 pawns for a rook. Bishop e3. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't know where Carl went wrong. Bishop c6. Now, look at this. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7 minor pieces. Pawns all over the place. And the rooks haven't even gotten in the game yet. How incredibly complicated is this? Holy crap. And the time's ticking away. And then Maxim's in that spot where he had a really good position earlier. And mentally what happens is when you know you're doing really well, and then a few moves later you're not, that is really hard mentally to try to adjust. It's a little different like in a Carl spot here where he knew he was pretty much down from the beginning. And he's kind of slowly crawling his way back. Sure, he's aggravated, but it's a different mindset than Maxim's going through right now. King to g2. We got to protect that pawn. Rook e8. King f2. Defend the bishop. g5. That was a move I know Yasser and Alejandro really didn't care for. But I thought it was a decent move. Now Carl's breathing a little easier. Maybe he's getting an idea in his head. Maybe I can pull this off. Make up for yesterday's draw that I should have won. Knight d3. And I want you to just think about this for a minute. Look at all these minor pieces, 7 of them. I mean, how complicated is this? 4 knights on the board. It's not easy, I'll tell you. I know these guys are world-class players, but they're still human beings. Pawn to g4. Decides to move the knight on d3 up. Hitting the bishop. Bishop goes to d5. He wants to keep the bishop. Rook to g1. I like that. I like it a lot. h5. He's got to guard the pawn. h3. Still tiny advantage. Still advantage for white over a point. Bishop takes. Knight takes. Knight d5. Now black's knights are starting to come alive. Pawn takes. Knight takes. Knight takes. Bishop takes. Rook e1. Good spot for that rook. Right directly challenging his rook. Now, usually when you're up the exchange, what you want to do is you want to try to exchange off the rooks. Or at least black's rook, in this case. Black's down the exchange. Get that other rook maneuvering around and try to win the game. Bishop c3. Rook e2. I'm going to do this a little bit of maneuvering for a while. That's a good spot for that bishop. Pinning that knight. He's got to move the king to stop the pin. Now black can liquidate here. Bishop takes, rook takes, king takes. That's not what he wants. I don't think that knight and those pawns can put up a defense against that rook. Knight c3. Computer likes g takes, h5. The crowd decided to go the rook to e1. Sensible move. Knight e4. Finally he takes, discovered check. King has to move to h7. Rook to g2. I think that's just stopping the knight from coming in or any other such nonsense. Knight d6. I'm going to see some maneuvering around for a while. Knight c2. Rook takes. Knight takes, pawn takes. Okay, you got a minor piece traded. It's a knight and 2 pawns against the rook. Can Carl pull this off? Oh, by the way, watching the commentary today, I had not realized that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has never beaten a Carl. Kind of the same problem that Carl has with Magnus Carlsen. Drawn him a bunch of times and lost, but he's never beat him. So maybe that's in the back of MBL's mind right now. Rook takes. There goes the other pawn. Rook takes. Knight f5. I think we pretty much see where this is going. Rook b4. b5. Black's only thing is his pawns. He's got to get him rolling. King comes up. King's a powerful piece in the endgame. Knight. King comes over. Maybe he can get over on the queen side and try to grab both of those pawns from black. Rook a3. h4. He's trying to defend his only pawn. Rook. Rook a2. Rook. Check. King comes over. Check. King comes over. You get the idea what's going on now. Rook e6. And the computer bears this out. It's dead drawn. I mean 0.00. The third move for white is still a draw. King f4. Go back and forth. Oh, that was a hell of a game. Had a lot of ups and downs for the players. Carl was down. Brought himself up a little bit. And then it petered out. Maxime, I thought, was in the driver's seat, especially right after the opening. And somehow he miscued. Now, I can't tell. Maybe some of you can go through this game and look. I don't know where Carl messed up to give Maxime the advantage. And I'm really pressing to find out where Maxime let up. Made a couple of inaccuracies that let Carl back into the game. My knowledge of the Benoni is not that extensive. So, anyway, folks, that's the only decent game, I think, from round 2 of the 7th Annual London Chess Classic 2015. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, tough break for both of these guys, but anyway, as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.